Good morning, good morning, good morning. I don't know where that came from, but I guess it's because it's time for us to stand up and sing, okay? Please join us in our opening song. Deb is song leading, God You Are. Thank you, Deb. Thank you, Deb. Well, good morning again. My name is Reverend Judy Pilot, and on behalf of the Unity Board of Trustees and our entire spiritual community, I'd like to welcome everyone who is here this morning, live and in person with us, everyone who is joining us via the live stream, and everyone who will tune in later during the week on the YouTube channel. We are delighted to have you here and blessed by your spiritual energy. I want to take a moment to thank the staff and volunteers, everyone who participates in putting together the service that we have here every week. This morning we have Brent back at the keyboard. So Brent, look at that. Look at that. A lot of little exercises to get through there, but he is definitely on his way. John is here on bass this morning. Carolyn is on drums. Welcome to both of you. You've already seen Deb, our song leader. Brian's on sound, Jared's on media. We've got ushers, we've got hospitality, and again, JP is on PowerPoint. I can remember him because my name is JP also. And he knows that I'm the original one. In so many ways, right? Oh, goodness. Well, anyways, thank you, everybody who helps to make this happen. Let's take a moment to affirm together our mission, vision, and core values. Our mission statement: as an all-inclusive community, we awaken to spirit, grow into our soul, and build a better world. And our vision statement? We celebrate a world of ever-awakening consciousness, abundance, peace, and love for all. And our core values? Love, authenticity, stewardship, oneness, and playfulness. And so now, as we begin to kind of settle down the energy a little bit, I'd like to introduce our meditation song. Deb's going to be back up here to lead us in You Are the Face of God. And so we take a moment now to just breathe. Just be grateful for the opportunity to be here, to celebrate together, to sing together, to pray together, and to acknowledge all of those faces of God that we find here with us on this spiritual path, this spiritual journey that we are taking. So I'd like to begin with a reading of the daily word, and the word for today is guidance. Tending to my spiritual life keeps me attentive to the whispers of my heart and in tune with my guidance. I am grateful for those moments I can rely upon my spiritual intuition to discern my path forward. But sometimes my guidance feels far away and hard for me to access on my own. At those times, I may seek the assistance of my trusted friends and advisors. I may seek the wise counsel of a minister or a spiritual counselor who encourages me to discover the wisdom found in the depths of my own consciousness. She, he, or they will pray with me, listen with empathy, and share my joy as my innate wisdom leads me along my unique spiritual path. I am grateful for those who walk the path alongside me. And from John chapter 14, verse 26, but the advocate, the Holy Spirit, whom the Father will send in my name, will teach you everything and remind you of all that I have said to you. And our affirmation for today is, divine wisdom helps me discover my unique spiritual path. And I'll say that one more time, and then the third time through, I invite you to affirm that with me. Divine wisdom helps me discover my unique spiritual path. Together, divine wisdom helps me discover my unique spiritual path. And so, as we consider those words and that message, I also remind you that we are not alone on this path, not by any stretch of the imagination. You see all of the beautiful faces here in our sanctuary today. And think of all the times that you have spent in this community, the challenges you have overcome, the good times that you've had. People who have come into our lives, sometimes for a reason, sometimes for just a season. But we are all on this journey together. And it is our privilege to walk together, to support each other, to be the face of God to those we are walking with, and to see God in their faces. The face of peace, the face of joy, the face of love, the face of God. We're here to be angels for each other and to remind each other of our magnificence. And so our guidance comes to us from many, many sources. And for that guidance and for that inspiration, we are grateful. Certainly, we can find guidance when we take the time to be in meditation and in prayer. But some of the most amazing insights come to us when we are smack dab in the middle of life, living, laughing, working together. When we catch that glimpse of our sacred self, and when we see the face of God in everyone around us. And so in the traditional sense of prayer and meditation and our unity practice of silence, I invite you now to simply take these thoughts, this gratitude that we have for each other and for God's divine presence and inspiration. Just take all of that into your heart. Follow your breath inside to that quiet space. And touch that presence within you. Listen for that small, still voice. And know that God is always with us. But especially in these moments, when we take the time to be fully present, deeply aware, and listening in the silence. I invite you to gently return your attention and your presence to this room and to this time and to this place. grateful for the path that you were on. Grateful for those who are making this journey with you. And knowing that our tools of prayer and meditation open us to the divine wisdom that helps us to discover, each and every one of us, our unique spiritual path. And for this and so much more, we say, thank you, God. Thank you, God. Thank you, God. Amen. Let's take a moment to enjoy some special music. And so it goes. That was just amazing. That is one of my favorite songs, and I had no idea he was going to do that. So once again, my challenge is to keep it together. But thank you, John. That was really very special. So here's a heads up and possibly a warning. I'm not sure. Take it however you will. I'm starting a 3-part series today. And the series is entitled, God is, I am, we are. And for me, this title represents 3 very fundamental questions that at some point in our lives, each one of us must answer. So the first question is, who or what is God? Second question is, what is my relationship with God? And the third question is, how does my relationship with God influence my life? So those are the things we're going to be taking a look at today and for the next couple of weeks. And it's interesting because JP and I were talking before the service, and we were talking about, sometimes it's a struggle to deal with these bigger questions. And he said, does everybody struggle? And I said, well, I think everybody who deals with the questions struggles. I said, there are probably some people who don't deal with the questions. But this is important stuff. It's about who we are and why we're here and what's the purpose of all of this. And so I'd like to kind of dive into this because I think the answers to these questions, for those of us who explore them, basically determine the answers to most, if not all, other questions that come up in life. So when it comes to that first question, who or what is God? Some of us probably have given that a great deal of thought. And I'm going to guess that others probably haven't thought much about it since Sunday school or catechism class. But I come from a family that went to church every Sunday. And this is not just, my parents, but it was my grandparents, aunts and uncles. We were all Catholic. We were all church-going. We went every Sunday. And I also had the good fortune to attend Catholic school through 8th grade. So I have been thinking about these questions since I was a kid. Sometimes like this, but I've been thinking about them. And some observations that I have about how this process kind of goes and unfolds for people. First one is, there are a lot of different ideas out there. Many of those ideas were really formed at a very early age. And for those people who kind of took the time to discard those old ideas and start to think for themselves, what all too often happens is that we can fairly easily reject some of those old ideas. But now becomes the question of what are we going to put in its place? So what fills up that space? So it's about actively constructing new ideas to replace those old ones. In Unity, we would say it's kind of like a denial without an affirmation. And in very practical, homeowner gardening terms, it's like picking off the top of the weed but not digging out the root, okay, because you really still haven't dealt with it. So when I hit my 30s, I had this incredible realization that my life was going to unfold with or without my conscious attention to it, with or without my conscious intentions. And it occurred to me, along with many other things, that it might be time for me to get a grown-up idea of God. It occurred to me that if I was going to have a life that was worth living, I needed a bigger idea of God, my very own grown-up God ideas and beliefs, not the ones that were handed to me by my parents or the nuns at Catholic school or my friends who sat around with me and had breakfast every Sunday when we all stopped going to church. Breakfast at the local restaurant became our church. My ideas. So what I'd like to do is just very personally share with you some of the history about how my ideas of God have evolved for me. Now, when I was in grade school, as I mentioned, I went to Catholic school, and we went to Mass every day. And for me, during that period, God was fairly patriarchal. You know, the Catholic Church is fairly patriarchal and male-dominated. God was judgmental, and God was separate from me. And I think, practically speaking, I kind of saw God the way I looked at my grandfathers. My grandfathers, they were kind, but they weren't cuddly, not by any stretch of the imagination. They were separate and apart from the women and the children. At family gatherings, after our meal, they would go and play pinochle, and then they would all speak Polish, and they were not to be interrupted or approached for any reason. And if you were acting up or acting out, oh boy, did you get the look. Now, on my mother's side of the family, it was one of those pursed lips kinds of things like, ew. And my dad's side of the family, they were all eyebrow people. Carolyn's got one of the best eyebrows in the world. She just goes. So you would get the look if you were doing something you weren't supposed to be. As I mentioned, in school, we went to Mass every day, and every day, multiple times, we would pray, Lord, I am not worthy. That's a great message, isn't it? We were taught that the only way to heaven was through baptism. Why? Because baptism washed away the stain of original sin. Adam's story was our story, a story of disobedience and betrayal and banishment, and we all inherited it just because. And we were taught that Jesus' death was then the ultimate reconciliation between human beings and God. The finally putting back that relationship, putting it back together after Adam's original sin. So, as we mentioned during our Christmas Advent series, Jesus was the ransom that was paid for the sins of mankind. Now, that was my story. That was my growing up. And there are other stories out there, because not everybody had a Polish grandfather, or dziadzia, as we used to call them, dziadzia, and babci. Babci was grandma. So here's another one for you. This one comes from a Sunday school teacher. And what she shared was that as she was getting ready to begin her class one Sunday morning, she noticed that two of her students were kind of off to the side in this intense, deep discussion. Not quite an argument, but getting close. You know, little clenched fists and voices getting a little bit higher. So she walked over to see what was going on with them. And clearly they were having an argument about something. And she says, hey, what seems to be the discussion here? What are you all talking about? And they said, well, we're talking about God. She said, okay, well, what's the discussion about? And the first one says, well, it's about God's first name. She goes, okay, so what do you think it is? And he said, art. You know, art in heaven. And the other one said, is not. And she said, well, what do you think it is? And she said, Andy. You know, Andy walks with me, Andy talks with me. So there's some ideas that are out there. There are others. And what I'd like to share with you this morning is one from kind of, contemporary culture, if you will. You may or may not have seen, but maybe have heard about, The Ballad of Ricky Bobby, Talladega Nights. And I have to admit that I am very respectful of Will Ferrell's talents and abilities, although I admittedly have not watched many of his movies. But I learned all about Talladega Nights and the Ballad of Ricky Bobby when I went to ministerial school. Because there's a scene in there about praying, and I kind of want to give you the gist of it right now. I'm not going to replay the video, but in the opening, this is their Thanksgiving dinner. So in the opening scene, Ricky says grace. He's getting started to say grace. He goes, dear 8-pound, 6-ounce, newborn infant Jesus, don't even know a word yet, just a little infant and so cuddly, but still omnipotent. And his wife interrupts and says, hey, Jesus did grow up. You don't always have to call him baby. It's a bit off-putting, praying to a baby. And then, of course, his friend Cal chimes in and says, hey, I like to picture Jesus in a tuxedo T-shirt, because it says, like, I want to be formal, but I want to party too. And because I like to party, so I like my Jesus to party too. And after all of this back and forth and more back and forth, finally Ricky says, well, I like Christmas Jesus. I like baby Jesus best, and I'm saying grace. When you say grace, you can say it to grown-up Jesus, you can say it to bearded Jesus, you can say it to whoever you want. But I'm saying grace, and we're praying to baby Jesus. So, as I said, some folks think about this a lot, some not so much. But for sure, there are lots of different ideas out there. During my college years, and kind of at the beginning of my adult life, I embraced what I call my Andy God. Yeah, and it is the Andy God I talked about earlier. Andy walked with me, Andy talked with me. But it was kind of like a big brother version of God. Not from the novel 1984 where, Big Brother is watching, but the big brother that I never had. I grew up with 2 younger sisters, but I had a cousin Jack who was 2 years older than me, and we were little kids. We would get together in the summertime. He would come spend a week at my house. I would go spend a week at his house. And we used to just hang out together and get into all sorts of mischief. But we really, really liked each other and had a lot of fun together. And that continued really until we were kind of out of high school and then really going our own separate ways. But he was the big brother I never had, and I always wanted a big brother. Someone who would kind of, have my back and protect me. Someone who could give me advice or wise counsel. Somebody who would, frankly, give me a kick in the seat of the pants every now and then if I was making excuses. or simply not trying hard enough. And that's what I was looking for to support me at that time. So that was the image of God that I created, was this just really cool big brother. Some people believe in a God that controls the universe and everything in it, and controls all of this from some sort of vantage point that's beyond the universe, beyond space and time. Other people believe in a supreme being that kind of caused the Big Bang that launched the universe as we know it. Some people believe in a God that kind of set the wheels in motion and then just completely leaves us to our own devices. Other people believe in the literal creation story as it's recorded in Genesis, about God creating everything in some time period, and then we were the last things. I don't know if that means that God saved the best for last or if it was an afterthought, but nonetheless, ostensibly, God created us and then put us in charge of it all. So, and some folks believe that absolutely. Today, my concept of God is really one of a God energy, or a God intelligence. And it would kind of go with that picture that we familiar with from the Hubble telescope. It's called the Eye of God. That picture down in the lower corner there. That's my Andy God over there on the other side. But I believe in a God energy or a God intelligence. And it's an evolutionary and a creative dynamic. It's a vitality or an intelligent force. And it's inherent in all of life, not just us, in all of life, plants, animals, everything. And it's in there at a molecular, cellular level. That intelligence is just in all of life. God, as this energy or this intelligence, is then a source from which all things in the manifest universe are brought forward into material condition. Remember last week we talked about the fact that everything is created twice, first in the mind and then in reality. And so it is from this intelligence that everything comes. That's the source of everything we see in our world. And my version of God as this energy or this intelligence is constantly expressing, certainly through us, but through everything that exists in the universe. All of it is God expressing. And because God is expressing through us and through the universe, and because we and the world are constantly changing, that means that God changes as well. There's a quote from a professor of cosmology. And I was pretty sure I knew what that meant, but I wanted to look it up just to make sure. Cosmology is a science of the origins of the universe. Doesn't have anything to do with hair. That's cosmetology. So, cosmology, Professor Brian Swim, and I love this quote. I think this quote is just so beautiful. It says, 4 billion years ago, our planet was molten rock, and now it sings opera. That kind of says it all, doesn't it? Okay. And Professor Swim has quoted Reverend Michael Dowd when he says, "We are the universe becoming conscious of itself. We are stardust that has begun contemplating stars." So that's kind of the zone I'm in terms of my thoughts about God. So, kind of a homework assignment for y'all. For the coming week, I'd like to extend an invitation to you to really kind of dig in and think about this. And have some conversations with yourself and, with folks that you have these conversations with. Say, how would you describe your God? Is it an Andy God? Is it an art God? Baby Jesus? Stars? Where does your God idea come from? Here's one, and this is the question that kind of got me going so many years ago. Is your God concept big enough for the life you want to live? And the last question, is it time for you to rethink your God? So I hope you have some fun with that. We're going to continue in these conversations for the next couple of weeks. Next week, we'll be digging into a little bit more of the theology and some of the spiritual teachings about God and our relationship with God, because that's question number 2. What is your relationship with God? So give that some thought, and next week, we'll take a look at our relationship with God. And in the meantime, I hope you have an amazing week. God bless you. And now it's time for a little special music.
It's going to be difficult here. Hang on. There we go. Morning. I'm Paul Marquis. I'm a member of the Board of Trustees, and just want to thank John. Wonderful. I love what you do, and thank you so much. I invite you to join in the board affirmation of the month, and following that, we'll do our offertory prayer. Realizing my divine nature, I am healed, open-hearted, and open-minded. I promote peace. And the offertory blessing, divine love through me blesses and multiplies all that I am, all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive.
Exciting this morning. I'll keep talking and let them deal with it really quickly. Just wanted to take an opportunity to thank these two musicians up here and Dave Van Haren as well, and some other people, as I have been healing for about a month here. So back at it, and again, thanks, John, for not using me in special music today and being able to just listen. That was wonderful. But I wanted to take an opportunity to talk to you all and invite you all to just a very informal chat today after the service about choir. I've been talking with some colleagues and some other church music directors about safety kind of protocols and whatnot, and I think we've got at least enough to get that ball rolling. And I know that's a big part of this church that I haven't been able to experience in my time here. So right after the service, if we want to just kind of congregate right up here, that would be wonderful. Only take about 4 or 5 minutes. Thanks, y'all.
Thank you, Brent. Did we have, we had our tithes for the month that were up there? Okay. Yeah, if you could just back up to those, because we are a tithing congregation. I think that's important. Whoa! I have to do medley of my hit. Oh. One more. Yeah. So this month our tithes are going to Unity Worldwide Ministries, the Great Lakes Unity Regional Conference, Unity of Kalamazoo, and the Kalamazoo Drop-In Child Care Center. So thank you for your gifts that generously support the work of this spiritual community and the work that we share with those who are on the path with us. Ushers are happy to accept your gifts and tithes on the way out. Okay, any other announcements we have here? Reminder to renew your membership. I think are we still looking for one? I know we received one from Deanne. We're still looking for one more shredder? Okay, and that's it? All right, that was easy. So let us stand and join together in the prayer for protection. And following that, we will sing the peace song. Together, the light of God surrounds us, the love of God enfolds us, the power of God protects us, the presence of God watches over us. Wherever we are, God is, and all is well.